as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end.
Amen. Magandang gabi uli po.
Good evening po.
Brother Jess, ready ka na po?
Sige, sandali lang po.
Okay. Pag-usapan po natin is reform, reason, and revolution. Tingnan po natin yung area na yon kung saan ang simbahan ay papasok doon sa
Good evening, brothers and sisters. Good evening, brothers and sisters.
Meron na po.
Tonight, I will present the topic.
Okay na po, okay na.
Religion and politics. Religion never exerted greater influence in Europe than in the period 1500 to 1660. And perhaps at no time in history was religion so closely bound up with politics. It was also during this time that it was being undermined and discredited, though at first largely unrecognized. Spain. Although Spain is in political and economic decline since the death of Philip II, the church in Spain is stronger than anywhere else due to the fact that most bishops were not from the nobility. In England, the Catholics at first were hoping for a better treatment from the new Stuart dynasty. But when it did not happen, a small group led by Robert H.B., a devout Catholic, hatched the Gunpowder Plot. The Gunpowder Plot is a failed attempt to assassinate the Protestant King James during the opening of the Parliament in 1605 and establish Catholic government. James and his son Charles I both had Catholic wives and did not enforce anti-Catholic laws rigorously. Charles supported efforts to make the Church of England become more Catholic, which led to his downfall and execution by the militant Protestants called Puritans. The Papist Plot of 1678 is a fraudulent claim that Catholics were conspiring to overthrow Charles in favor of his Catholic brother James. Although Charles became a Catholic in his deathbed, James too sincerely desired religious toleration by a royal edict that is without parliamentary agreement. When his wife gave birth to a son, thereby ensuring a Catholic succession, many leading men of the kingdom invited his Protestant daughter, Mary II, and her husband, William III, take the throne, thereby forcing James to flee to France. In Ireland, the blood martyrs proved to be a seed of Christians. A rebellion during Charles I reign was put down, and a few years later, the Puritan leader Oliver Cromwell invaded and brutally suppressed all resistance, beginning a policy of seizing the lands of the Catholic nobility and systematically settling English and Scottish Protestants in their place. As Archbishop of Armagh, St. Oliver Plunkett was a reformer who braved extreme conditions to minister to his scattered crowd. He was captured and executed at London on drawn-up charges of treason. The Orange victory. The decisive Orange victory marked the beginning of the fierce strife between Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland. Priests were outlawed, hunted down, and savagely persecuted by the British Crown. The Church was associated with liberation from English rule. Netherlands. The Netherlands was an open society with toleration urged mainly for pragmatic Islam. However, Catholics were barely tolerated and were not permitted public places of worship. The 30 Years' War. In 1618, the German Habsburg Prince Ferdinand was elected King of Bohemia and announced his intention of enforcing the minority Catholic faith on a society that included a large number of Jesuits as well as Lutherans and Calvinists. But the Bohemian died, repudiated Ferdinand, and elected in his place the German Calvinist Prince Frederick, ruler of the Rhine Palatinate. Frederick placed restrictions on Catholics, but Ferdinand expelled Frederick from the Palatinate and expelled also a Protestant prince who was elected as King of Hungary. Ferdinand was also elected as Holy Roman Emperor, but the Protestant princes of the empire rallied in support of Frederick, precipitating the greatest of all religious conflicts, the 30 Years' War, which started in 1618 and ended in 1648. The 30 Years' War, like other religious wars, was only partly about religion. Religion provided murderous passion, and Ferdinand wanted to promote Catholic faith, but the Catholic princes were alarmed that he sought to increase imperial power at their expense. In 1648, Emperor Ferdinand III had to acquiesce in the Peace of Westphalia, which was a victory for the German princes as a whole, who retained the right to determine the religion of their subjects, including Calvinism, and retained church lands seized contrary to the Peace of Augsburg. Pope Innocent then condemned the treaty. The prince's victory, in effect, reduced the Holy Roman Empire merely to Austria. Only in his military lands, including Bohemia and other Central European territories, did the emperor have the authority to enforce Catholicism as the official faith. France. The architect of French support for the German Protestants was Cardinal Armand de Richelieu. He pursued a foreign policy in which explicit religious considerations had no place, although he invoked the divine authority of the king to silence the resistance. After Richelieu's death, his place at court was taken by another Cardinal, Julio Mazarini. One of his achievements was to help bring about the Peace of Westphalia.
Bakit po parang may kumukulog?
In 1772, Poland, which is one of the largest countries in Europe, was brutally dismembered by Catholic Austria, Lutheran Prussia, and Orthodox Russia. Although Poland ceased to exist as a separate country, the Polish people retained their own language and culture. The Catholic religion aimed to be the core of their identity as they resisted both German Protestantism and Russian Orthodoxy. The absolute monarchy. Two realities favored the absolute state. First, the control by the monarchies over the churches, and second, the weakening of the feudal nobility, both of which had been effective limits on kingly power in earlier times. The Reformation had given the state control of the churches and virtually all Protestant lands. The pious Catholic monarchs also made the church pay heavily for their support. The absolute monarchies were in effect Erastian, treating the church as subordinate to the state. This is an idea associated with the Swiss physician Thomas Erastus. The papacy but Catholic theorists of royal absolutism published sweeping attacks on papal authority, even echoing the Protestant claim that it was a medieval usurpation, and secular princes constantly intrigued in the papal conclaves, ensuring that the man elected was often merely the one with the fewest enemies. The Spanish even prevented the election of the great historian Baronius in 1605. Clement XI was a cardinal of the Roman Curia, was not even ordained a priest until shortly before his election. Pius VI was elected after a conclave that lasted 241 days, but proved to be an able leader in a great crisis, but he was also a nepotist. Religious toleration. The idea and the practice of religious toleration gradually grew during the 17th century, mainly for political reasons. In France, a group called the Politics, saying that the needs of the state takes precedence over the demands of religion. Resolute made war on the Huguenots. The provision of Edict of Nantes remained in effect. But Louis XIV, the longest reigning monarch in European history, revoked the edict in 1685, and in some cases, soldiers were billeted in Huguenot houses to force conformity. The revocation sent numerous Huguenots into exile, although many remain, but they are always in danger of persecution. Locke. After the Glorious Revolution, the principal theorist of toleration was the Englishman John Locke, who urged freedom of all forms of Christianity except Catholicism, which he accused of being politically subversive. The Jews. The Catholic Church remained officially opposed to religious toleration except for the Jews. Ecumenism. There was some incipient ecumenism. The unorthodox Dutch Calvinist Hugo Grotius carried on friendly discussions with the Resolute and hoped for the reunion of the churches under the Pope. Although he stopped short of actually becoming a Catholic. Witchcraft. The mid-17th century marked the height of the systematic witchcraft or prosecution. Skeptics doubted the reality of witchcraft. Prosecution declined in the latter half of the century. The French Church, in keeping with the politic spirit, the decrees of the Council of Trent were not accepted in France until the death of Henry IV. And then only by the clergy, not by the monarchy. The Tridentine decrees were thought to violate the freedom of the Gallican Church. The long delay meant that French clerical life to a great extent went unreformed, especially because the crown continued the appointment of bishops. But once the decrees were accepted, France replaced Spain and Italy as the center of the Catholic Reformation. Resolute. Initially, much of the revival was under the patronage of the oratorial Cardinal Pierre de Berulle, but his support for opposition of reforming movements was largely dependent on how they related to royal dynasty at given moment. Royal appointment of bishops tended to produce worldly men of noble birth, but Resolute, to some extent, promoted better candidates. The reformers tended to identify both practical charity and the education of priests as the chief needs of the day. The Company of the Blessed Sacrament was founded by devout men at the royal court and eventually expanded to 4,000 members in 60 towns. Francis de Sales was officially Bishop of Calvinist Geneva, but in France, he succeeded in winning back thousands of Huguenots to the church. He personally catechized children, called Introduction to the Devout Life. Saint Vincent de Paul. As a young priest, Saint Vincent de Paul was captured by Muslims and taken to North Africa, where he became the slave of a former Franciscan's three wives, whom he persuaded to repent and return with him to France. Partly because of his unique experiences, Vincent moved in high circles, serving as chaplain of princes and becoming nominal abbot of a Cistercian monastic. Vincent experienced a calling to revitalize the faith in France and serve the poor while serving briefly as pastor of a rural parish where the church was in ruins and the sacraments neglected. He repaired the building with his own hands and effected spiritual revival. In 1625, he founded the Congregation of Priests of the Mission, where members are called either Vincentians or Lazarists. Vincent identified the low state of the parish clergy and emphasized practical pastoral training. The female orders. Vincent recruited groups of women, the ladies of charity, to work among the poor, the abandoned children. 1646, Daughters of Charity was officially approved as a religious community. The first community of women in the history of the church were not strictly cloistered. The male orders. Like Vincent St. John Hughes, streets in rural areas, he became convinced the need for better priests. He left the oratorians with resolute support, founded the Society of Jesus and Mary, to run seminaries, and a group of women to work with reformed prostitutes. John Jacques Ollier, a worthy priest who underwent conversion under Vincent's influence and founded seminary in Paris that took its name from Ollier's parish, Saint Sulpice. The Society of Saint Sulpice became the leading educators of the diocesan clergy with special concern for their inner spiritual formation. Armand Chanderans was a secular priest and an absentee abbot. The death of his mistress brought him to conversion, and he assumed the active direction of the Cistercian Abbey of the Crown. He transformed the Crown into a legendary center of monastic austerity, so that the order of Cistercian, the strict observance, became known as Trappist. Saint Louis Marie Grignon de Montfort nursed the sick and for a time lived as a ragged beggar, founded two religious communities, the missionaries, men, and the brothers of the Holy Spirit, who pursued lessons for evangelizing the rural areas. Saint John Baptist de La Salle founded the school for boys in the parish of Saint Sulpice, which obeyed the teaching of Latin, which was considered essential for younger. The Salle School taught practical subjects like bookkeeping and arithmetic and required manual labor for its students. Devotions. Private devotions multiplied, retreats for lay people, frequent communion, exposition of the Blessed Sacrament, and 40 hours devotion. Youths promoted the medieval devotion to the Sacred Heart. Baroque. The Baroque style was the last great manifestation of religious art in the history of Western civilization. Visual expressions inspired by the Catholic Reformation and music of both Catholic and Protestant form. The Baroque in music culminated in the Austrian Catholics Franz Joseph Haydn and Wolfgang Amadeo Mozart, and the Lutherans Johann Sebastian Bach and George Frederick Handel. Baroque Spanish institutes were often painted in quality colors. Some great writers remained devout believers, like the Spaniard Lope de Vega and French playwright Pierre Corneille, who translated the Imitation of Christ. The Jesuits continued to use drama as a means of instruction and inspiration in their schools. The English poet John Dryden was raised a Puritan, converted successively to Anglicanism and Catholicism, and he defended the necessity of an infallible church to guard against false understanding of Scripture. Augustinianism. The glorious French Catholic revival evolved into one of the greatest crises in the history of the Church because of the divergences between Augustine and Aquinas. But extremely, the issue of the relationship between grace and free will. It became the most contested Catholic doctrine. Jesuit theologians charged that Dominicans slighted free will, while the Dominicans countered that the Jesuits did not recognize the need of grace. The Spanish Jesuits Suarez and Luis de Molina taught that God foresaw free human choice, gave graces to individuals, weighed their salvation, but would reject those graces. Jansenism. The Blenheim Bishop Cornelius Jansen, in his book Augustine, emphasized that God was remote and inscrutable. For 2 centuries, Jansenism continued to be the single most influential and tenacious modern Catholic heresy. Jansen attempted to win over Protestants by showing that authentic Catholicism also recognized that men were incapable of keeping the commandments, that God's will was absolutely sovereign, and that grace was fully unmerited, freely given, and capable of being resisted. Human nature was so corrupt that it was possible to sin without willing to do so. Port Royal. Jansen's best friend John Ambrose de Haran, who knew Richelieu, Verulu, de Sales, and de Paul, spread Jansen's ideas in France. Some of the leading figures of the French Catholic revival were worthy people who underwent conversion and developed a strong sense of sin. Condemnation. Jansen's work was condemned by the Sorbonne, by the king, and by several popes, as shown by his revocation of the Edict of Nantes. Louis XIV took seriously his coronation of opposed heresy, and as many as 2,000 Jansenists were imprisoned during this reign. After Jansenism's initial condemnation in 1654, many of its institutions were closed by royal authority. The nuns of Port Royal resisted, leading the Archbishop of Paris characterized them as pure as angels and proud as devils. The monastery was suppressed and its nuns were scattered to other convents. The Jansenist response to official condemnations was to accept them in principle, protest that in act they did not hold the condemned proposition, and formulate their teachings in such a way as to try to escape the condemnation. Jansenist spirituality. The heart of Jansenist spirituality was sense of the immense gulf that separated man from God, a sense of sin that required continuous penance, because they thought many people were predestined to damnation. Jansenists denied that Christ died for men. The term Jansenist discouraged frequent communion, and the term Jansenist referred to those who held or appeared to hold the condemned propositions concerning nature and grace, but it was used much more loosely to designate anyone who held to strict moral principles. the Jesuit moral theology. The Jesuits, because of their emphasis on free will and a kind of humanism that saw God's presence in ordinary things, were Jansenism's greatest antagonist. Following Ignatius, Jesuits sought to influence every area of culture and make it Christian, while Jansenists, fearing that Christians themselves would thereby be corrupted, advocated withdrawal from the world. Devotion to the sacred heart, which was specially promoted by the Jesuits, emphasized the love of Jesus and his accessibility to those who sought him, and Jesuits, following Aquinas, taught the existence of natural human virtues that made strength possible. The Jansenists accused Jesuits of catering to the lax consciences of the aristocracy. For example, the Jesuits allowed a lady to attend a ball on the day when she had received communion. Another example is that the Jesuits allowed the reception of communion by a married couple on the day when they had had intercourse. Blaise Pascal, the most important Catholic thinker between the 16th and 19th centuries, had a close relationship with the Jansenist movement. He underwent conversion. Pascal was a Jesuit's most formidable antagonist. Mysticism. Most spiritual writers emphasize the passivity of the mystical experience. The individual could not seek it and was not granted everything. From this sense of passivity, the other principal heresy of the age was derived. Quietism originated with the Spanish priest Miguel de Molinos and may have been influenced by the Alumbrados heresy. It took its name from the fact that in its extreme form, it advocated a completely passive surrender to the will of God, the abandonment of all human effort towards salvation, even the effort to resist temptation. I desire to desire nothing, but I do not even desire them. Quietists appeared to have no need of the sacraments or any other religious externals. Molinos taught at Rome and at one point attracted the support of the future Pope Innocent XI, but he was later accused of immoral relations with women and imprisoned by Innocent. His fate posed an intriguing question about Quietist spirituality. Did Molinos actually commit fornication? Or because he did not resist temptation, was he innocent but made no effort to defend himself? Skepticism. Much of the spiritual and much of the intellectual and spiritual dissatisfaction of the period from 1300 to 1600 came from the belief that reason had been valued too much by scholastic theology. French satirist François Rabelais mocked what he considered the extreme credulity and fanaticism of religion. Tommaso Campanilla, an Italian Dominican who was imprisoned and tortured by the Inquisition for his interest in magic and semi-mystical speculation about a future city of the sun that would replace existing kingdoms. Michel de Montaigne was a believing Catholic connected to the politics professed a highly personal and common sense kind of skepticism. He marveled that anyone would be so sure of his beliefs as to kill and be killed for them. Peronist, named for an ancient Roman philosopher that cast doubt on all certain things. While some doubted religion, many were religious believers who used skeptical arguments against their theological opponents in order to show the need for some kind of authority. That is the Bible for Protestants and the Church for Catholics. In the 7th century, the claims of reason once again came into their own, although in ways different from the Middle Ages. The 2 centuries after 1600 came to be called the Age of Reason, when reason came to deny divine revelation. The scientific revolution. Copernicus, the earliest and most dramatic incidence of potential conflict when faith and reason came from astronomy. In 1543, the Polish astronomer Nicholas Copernicus published a treatise proposing the sun, not the earth, is the center of the universe. Galileo. For decades, the new theory is confined largely to scientific circles, but by using a telescope, the Italian physicist Galileo Galilei saw that the surface of the moon was irregular like Earth. Planet Jupiter had 4 moons. These facts contradicted the Aristotelian claim. The Jesuit response. Jesuits, notably Christoph Columbus, devised the Gregorian calendar, were among the leading astronomers of the day. Aristotle claimed that the Earth was the center of the universe, but experience showed that the Earth was stationary while the sun moved. Bellarmine feared that to discredit Aristotle's astronomy might discredit much of Catholic theology. Galileo was summoned before the Inquisition, put under house arrest. But in 1992, Pope Jan Paul II formally stated that the Church had erred in condemning Galileo. And later, Pope Benedict XVI praised Galileo as someone whose work helped men to contemplate with gratitude God's word. Scientific practice. Almost all areas of science developed rapidly in the 17th century. Some research practices encountered resistance of the church, such as the dissection of human bodies to the study of anatomy. Discoveries in biology begins to raise questions about the age of the world except for Genesis. René Descartes is a French philosopher dissatisfied that the philosophers of the past have been unable to agree on the nature of, partly to refute Peronism. He began the search for truth by doubting everything that could be doubted, so that what remained could be said. But the idea of God in reason could not be the product of the finite mind, and therefore had to be proved. Francis Bacon is an English lawyer that urged all the learning of the past be discarded and the search for truth began again. That is based on empirical investigation. Descartes was impressed by mathematics. Bacon was impressed by the sifting of empirical facts. Isaac Newton is an Anglican who completed the scientific revolution by formulating a few simply stated laws that explain the movement of all bodies, from the planets to the smallest grains of sand. Newton believed he had placed religious belief on firmer ground by showing that the universe had been planned and governed by a superior intellect. Miracles occurred only through the power of God, by temporarily suspending the laws. Blaise Pascal is a great mathematician and attempted to overcome skeptical questions. The threat to the Catholic faith came not to the philosophical skepticism, but mainly from worldliness, what Blaise Pascal called libertinism. For Pascal, the only solution to the human dilemma was faith in Jesus Christ. Critical history. Building up the work of Renaissance humanists like Valia, the new spirit of critical inquiry spanned beyond physical world to the study of history. Hence, the reassessment of the church is past. Hence, Benedictine Jean Madelo evaluated the sources for the history of early church, while the modernists did the same for the lives of the saints. The Enlightenment. Diocesan, despite Pascal's reservation, the new science seemed to require a kind of natural theology, as Descartes insisted. God was seen as the ultimate principle of intelligibility in the universe. The term Diocesan, from the Latin word for God, is not used for this rational religion, while Diocesan, from the Greek Tribalium, is used to designate belief in the personal God. The persistence of faith. Although Diocesan created a God within the religious culture of educated classes and the beliefs of other people, traditional religion remained vital. Parish missions were still effective, and retreat houses were established for lay people to make spiritual exercises. Many kinds of devotion flourished, especially of the Sacred Heart, Stations of the Cross, and Marian type with various parents. As saints, as in every age, there was sanctity in the age of wisdom. Venerable Louis of France, daughter of the promiscuous Louis XV, joined the strict Carmelite convent. Saint Paul of the Cross, Denis, was an Italian who founded the Congregation of the Passion, primarily to preach Christian-centered on Christ's Passion. One of the favorite saints was 1600-old Saint Joseph, foster father of Jesus. The growth of his cult was probably related to the renewed devotion to the Jesus, as in Sacred Heart and Marian devotion. Saint Alphonsus Neri Ligoi, also an Italian and a lawyer from an aristocratic family, who founded the Redemptorist, or the Congregation of the Most Holy Redeemer. He is a moral theologian and a doctor of the Church. Gallicanism. The Gallican movement severely undercut papal authority in France, where the kings had obtained from the Pope control over the appointment of bishops. Louis XIV nominated bishops for political reasons. The church continued to be called politics. The state of the church, a condition of the institutional church, authentic finding the means of holiness, similar throughout Europe. Patronates and Catholic relations meant a great deal in obtaining promotion. The financial gulf between bishops, cathedral clergy, and village priests was enormous. Some of them, the impoverished village pastors, presented the youth's disparate income between themselves and their superiors. The philosophies. The self-styled Enlightenment began in France, spread all over the Western world. Its apostles were called philosophers, meaning not philosophers, but the modern term intellectual. Secret societies. New secret societies like the Rosicrucians and Illuminati falsely claim an ancient finance, assaulted science, and harbored antagonism to Christianity. The Freemasons, whose historical origins are obscure, to compose of them, satisfy the organized religion. Freemasonry was condemned by a succession of popes, but the movement had influence even within the church, with first among its members. The war on tradition. According to philosophers, mankind had been bred by the new science. They admitted that from a purely scientific standpoint, their age was less profound than the previous century. The enemies of faith. The dominant intellectual figure of the age was Francois Marie Arouet, who wrote under the name Voltaire. He was educated by the Jesuits but abandoned Catholicism and came to see the church as the chief enemy of mankind because, in his opinion, it exercised power through ignorance and superstition. The Sunday sermon was the chief means by which people were exposed to ideas. Since the philosophers placed their faith in reason, it followed that only the educated, the enlightened, could be trusted. The enlightened Catholics. Whereas the philosophers were driven by passionate conviction and an audience sense of vision, most Catholic intellectuals, including clergy, were also eager to prove they too was enlightened. A group of Benedictines at the Abbey of Saint Germain, Paris, wanted to be known as scholars, not monks. Voltaire dedicated his book on Muhammad to Pope Benedict XIV, who at first did not comprehend that Voltaire's ridicule of Muslims' beliefs as absurd was a way of insinuating the same thing about Christianity. In general, the Jesuits were better educated and more rigorous in their thinking than philosophers. Neo-paganism. The Enlightenment sought to answer the unanswered question of Renaissance humanism, whether ancient pagan culture had been superior to Christianity. The Old Testament was considered to be the chronicle of an uncivilized people, and attitudes toward Jesus ranged from seeing him as a moral teacher whose doctrines had been distorted by his followers, or to seeing him as a probe of self-development. Deism. Most philosophers were deists. Voltaire denounced atheism because it would both make the universe unintelligible and encourage anarchy, and install natural religion or the religion of Islam. Catholics saw immorality as inherent in human nature, while for philosophers it was the product of ignorance and a new morality. There was a kind of enlightenment about sexual revolution in which common violations of the Sixth Commandment were justified. Pornography, for instance, became thriving industry. The natural man. The fundamental debate over human nature. Jesuits agreed with the philosophers that there are natural human virtues. Orthodox Catholics could accept the idea of practice, while insisting that the perfect society could never be achieved. While for Jansenists there could be no practice, since men were slaves to sin, and all human effort was ultimately futile. Catholic divisions. By the middle of the 18th century, the Enlightenment had mounted a systematic, passionate attack on the church and on the old machine. But in many ways, internal Catholic disputes were equally important. Enlightened despotism. The Enlightenment's contempt for traditions of all kinds appealed to enlightened rulers who wanted to reorganize their realms in order to centralize their power and make it more efficient. In accord with the Enlightenment idea that the purpose of religion is the improvement of society, the monastic orders were targeted because the contemplative life seemed idle and unproductive. Josephinism. Emperor Joseph II, thought of himself as an enlightened despot, closed 700 monasteries of contemplative religions, burned the liturgical calendar, withdrew diocesan boundaries, forbade publication of papal bulls, and supervised Catholic schools, including seminaries. This is a policy of state control of the church, which is called Josephinism. Assault on the Jesuits. The Jesuits were the target of hostility by the Catholic monarchs because they were under the Pope and therefore threat to the supremacy of the state. Jansenism. In France, both the king and the Pope condemned Jansenism, which gradually lost its aristocratic following but continued strong with a few sympathetic bishops and clerical support, especially in Paris. Jansenists did not espouse religious freedom for everyone, but only for the group of which they were the sole possessors. The suppression of the Jesuits. In 1761, Parliament of Paris, since the highest court in France, forbade the Jesuits to accept new members and close their schools. One by one, Catholic states began expelling the Society of Clement XIII, whom they vigorously defended. There were 23,000 Jesuits at the time of the suppression. Ironically, the society remained officially in existence only in Protestant Prussia and Orthodox Russia. The French Revolution. Before the storm, through all this, the monarchy was losing much of its spiritual charism, especially because of Louis XV notorious adulteries, for which his Jesuit confessors refused an absolution. His failure to receive communion raised fear that the kingdom no longer enjoyed divine favor. Louis XVI was crowned the new king. In contrast to his grandfather, predecessor, he led an exemplary life there while once again touching for the king's idol. The crown's chronic financial crisis, causing poverty, caused by a series of bad harvests, eroded his popularity. The failure of reform. Of the three states, the third, composed of the commoners, mostly of the upper middle class, was reform-minded and sought to alleviate the financial crisis by depriving the nobility of their privileged exemptions from taxes. Although the clergy were in principle also not taxed, a substantial number of clergy in the first state also favored reform, as did some of the nobles of the second. The bad harvest of the 1780s caused serious want and popular discontent. While the members of the States General debated reform, riots broke out both in Paris and the countryside. An elected National Assembly was given legislative power, and the king's authority was limited. But there were unresolved issues: a continuing financial crisis and the authority of the church. The attack on the church. The two issues were resolved by the seizure of the wealth of the church. Sale of church properties created a class of people who had a vested interest in the new government. The assembly abolished tithes, which had been the support of most of clergy. With those gone, they were to be paid salaries by the government. Clergy were in effect to become employees of the state. Gregory, who had Jansenist sympathies, successfully proposed the abolition of all papal taxes in France. Monasteries were abolished, and some nuns were reduced to beg. There was a concerted attack on clerical celibacy, partly because of the terms that the priest had an obligation to produce children for France, partly because celibacy was recognized a major source of priestly charisma. Many clergies soon married. Education was secularized, so no danger of inculcating counter-revolutionary ideas in the young. Government extended religious toleration, making non-Catholics fully equal to Catholics. Bende, in the Bende region in the west, and rebellion against the new revolutionary government broke out, provoked by the new policy of compulsory conscription of men into the army. But it has also deep religious roots as the religious armies marched into battle under banners of Sacred Heart, singing hymns with chaplains carrying the Blessed Sacrament. Attack on the monarchy. The attack on the monarchy and the church were intimately linked since the king's authority was said to be divinely conferred. The vial of oil claimed to have been sent from heaven and for centuries had been used to anoint the new king was destroyed by the revolutionaries in Greece. The terror. In the reign of terror, suspicious persons, including priests who had not taken the oath, were rounded up, some killed by monks, others executed at the gallows. Loyal Catholics were accused of fanaticism. Approximately 5,000 priests were imprisoned. Many never emerged alive. The king and queen were also publicly executed, as was their daughter Elizabeth. The Christianization. Even clergy who had taken the oath were now forbidden to exercise their instincts, and all churches were closed or converted to secular uses like stables for the horses. Tolerance granted Protestants and Jews was certain, as the revolutionary government soon forbade all religious practices except the schools created by the state. Liberty, equality, fraternity. Where the gospel was not rejected altogether, it was said it's the social quality of all men, something the revolution was at last achieving. The revolutionary slogan, liberty, equality, fraternity, set in motion a fanatical drive to destroy all social grounds and was itself a major cause of the suppression of liberty. The revolution promised the achievement of perfect society, the perfect mankind. The Directory. Some revolutionaries saw that they were safe from Robespierre protesters and became the target of coup and perished in the guillotine in 1794. The terror then subsided under a new government called the Directory. The age of Napoleon. No one in France could command real authority, as the order was precarious. The Directory was weak, and the military commander, Napoleon Bonaparte, organized another government, Apostolate, which Napoleon dominated. Napoleon was a deist and a supporter of the revolution, but was also a realist who sought power and tried to avoid the mistakes of the Directory, including its suppression of religion and uneasy truths. Pope Pius VII was elected as Venus because Napoleon troops occupied Rome. In 1801, the master papal diplomat, Cardinal Salvi, succeeded in negotiating a order with Napoleon to protect the interest of the church without conceding legitimacy to the regime. The constitutional church thus came to an end, with more than half of its bishops submitting to the Pope and the rest either resigning or being deposed. Renewed persecution. But in the end, the papal diplomacy failed to save the church from secular power. In 1804, Napoleon proclaimed himself Emperor of the French. Soon, the Emperor interpreted the Concordat in increasingly restrictive ways and to press the papacy into an alliance against France's enemies. During the Napoleonic occupation, Spanish Cortes abolished the Inquisition and introduced religious reforms. The Spaniards resisted Napoleon most fiercely, partly motivated by their Catholicism, often led by their first fall of Napoleon. Napoleon was defeated by the combined European powers in 1814. The Pope was able to return to Rome, only to desist again when Napoleon regained his throne the following year. The aged Pope was released for the last time after Napoleon's defeat in Waterloo in 1815. Pope Pius, who was alone among the European state, received Napoleon's mother and other relatives as deputies and interceded to make the condition of Napoleon's exile less severe. End of my talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Jess.
Salamat po. Salamat.
Very good. So 9:05, pwede tayong magkaroon ng breakout room for 30 minutes and then 30 minutes doon sa magiging questions and answers natin. Ano pa? Okay, so I'm going to bring about ilang pa tayo? 21, 3, 7. Hindi, 5 na lang, 4. Okay, sandali lang po. 5. Okay.
Hello po, magandang gabi po.
Magandang gabi po.
Ano po bang pag-uusapan natin?
Sir. Can you lecture, sir?
Ano po yun?
Garbled up some me, Mr. J. Park.
Ano po yun?
Hindi po clear yung kanyang pagsasalita eh.
Kung nga po,
Pero
di
po
ba?
ba siya? Pangit yung sound. From my end, ha? Ako ba, may ano? Am I clear? Narinig niyo ba ako? Clearly.
Siguro po ma'am, dalawa po naka-open yung ano, dalawang naka-open yung ano, laptop o
Kasi kayo, ano,
cellphone.
buti, parang nagagaling sa malalim na hukay ang ating mga boses. Okay, input ko lang to. Based to sa presentation.
Maingay pa rin po ma'am.
Parang, well, really, ano, di ba,
Para po nag-echo na
I think, or because parang the development and the partnership, kumbaga, nagpakumbay yung reason and religion.
maingay pa rin po ma'am, di maintindihan po.
Anyway, hindi naintindihan.
Hindi po.
Pangit ang sound natin, I don't know. Ayun rin, pangit ang sound from my end.
Siguro
Hindi ko maintindihan.
siguro po ma'am, dalawang naka-open yung ano,
So, paano tayo nagdi-discuss na? Pangit ang sound natin.
usually kasi ma'am, pagka dalawang naka-open na device, parang nag-echo. Kaya hindi po maintindihan masyado ang sinasabi. Naintindihan niyo po ang ano, ang sinasabi ni Ma'am De Leon?
Hindi po nag-e-echo po eh. Nagdodoble po.
Ako hindi ko rin maintindihan from my end. Eh, paano tayo mag-discuss? Sino ang may dalawang device?
Bali po dun sa akin, kanina while
So, sino ba ang teki dito? We can improve our sound. Walang nangyayari. Pareho lang tayo.
yung pong presentation ni Brother Jun nakatulong po sa akin para maintindihan po yung kasi yung founder po ng congregation, yung co-founder ng congregation namin ay Jesuit. Mas ngayon ko po naintindihan na bakit masyadong ano yung maraming exile yung mga Jesuit nung time ng ano ng French Revolution, tama po ba? Basta yun po yung mas nakatulong po yung presentation nyo kanina sa akin.
Opo, na parang napag-initan sila ng mga hari.
Po kasi yung mas ano sila sa Pope, yung ano nila yung obedience nila sa Pope kasi poor po yung kanilang vows eh.
Isa po yun sa dahilan yung talagang loyal sila sa Santo Papa. Kaya yung mga hari magagalit sa kanila. Kasi nung time na yun, para po kasi yung nakakapagtaka nga eh, bakit yung mga hari, yung mga monarch, sila po ang tawag doon, nagtatalaga ng mga obispo. Sila ang namimili. Alba, gusto kitang maging obispo, sila ang ano. Parang naalala mo dito sa atin noon, yung mga pulis ay mayor ang namimili ng magiging
Pare.
chief of police ng ng mga bayan natin noon, di ba? Parang inaano ko lang sa politika. Nung time naman na yon, yung mga hari, yung mga namumuno, siyang naglalagay ng magiging obispo sa kanilang lugar. Hindi yung Santo Papa. Hindi katulad ngayon, di ba? Ang nagiging obispo talagang nanggagaling appointment mula sa Rome, di ba? Halimbawa, si Bishop, yung bishop natin, si Bishop Francis.
Opo.
Oo. Ang ano niya, ang appointment, direkta manggagaling sa Rome mula sa ating Pope. Pero nung time na yon, yung hari ang nag-ano, kumbaga dito sa atin, yung presidente ang gusto ko si ganito ang maging bishop. Walang magagawa ang Santo Papa. Kaya yung loyalty ng bishop o ng mga pari nandun sa sa appointing power nasa hari.
Nakapasok po ako kasi affected yung congregation namin during the initial yung pagtatatag. Through letters lang sila nag-uusap ng aming founders. Sabi ko, ay kaya pala kasi nag-excel yung aming yung co-founders si Father Butinya. Pinaalis siya sa Salamanca tapos pumunta siya sa France yata nung time na yon. Kaya sabi ko, kaya pala ganun ang tindi-tindi nung mga unang pagbabasa ko, hindi ko ganun makapture. Yung kaninang presentation, it helps me to understand.
Ma'am, ano po kayo? Anong...
Ano po, Madre po ng Siervas de San Jose, ang aming founder ay sa Salamanca, Spain.
Ayun.
Kaya
Saan po
po,
yung parokya ngayon naka-assign?
dito po kami sa Cubao, may isa pong katikis. Bali po, taga-Angono po ako, pero po, nung pumasok po ako sa kongregasyon, ay na-assign po ako sa iba-ibang places. Sa Cubao po ako ngayon naka-assign.
Taga-Angono po kami.
Oo nga po, pardon, familiar nga po yung inyong...
Kilala niyo po si Sister May Hernandez, ang kasalukuyang head po ng worship dito sa St. Clement Parish. Kilala niyo po siya? Kamag-anak niyo po ba siya?
Mag-anak po, pero siguro po kami ngayon, dahil 30 years na nga po ako, katikista po ako ng Angono before I enter. Siguro 30 years na kami siguro magkakasabayan, pero hindi ganun yung close na encounter.
Di kilala niya po si Ate Noning.
Opo, yun po yung head catechist noon. Nanay-nanaya ko po yun.
Opo. Actually, catechist pa rin po siya hanggang ngayon.
Opo. Kasama po ako sa chat group ng St. Clement Catechetical Group.
Okay.
Updated po ako. Kaya nagkakatikista po ako dito sa Aguinaldo, sa Cubao, sa parokya ng Transfiguration.
Ay, ganun po ba?
Sige po. Pasensya na po, nakuha ko yung oras.
Hindi, okay lang po kasi actually nga po, nung time kasing yon, yung sa report ko po, di po ba nabanggit ko ron na nung nagalit yung hari, yung mga konbento pinasara.
Opo.
Kaya yung mga madre noon ay, di ba nakalagay doon, namamalimos na lang para...
Yeah, yung po mga Spanish sister namin hanggang sa Iloilo. Kasi yung pag-found dito sa Pilipinas, sa Buena Vista, sa Capiz, tapos lumipat sila ng Iloilo. Tapos yung mga madre namin kinukwento na build daw yung dormitory namin sa pamamagitan ng palilimos. Yung mga madre namin kumakain sa bao, yung mga Espanyola. Kaya I can enter to the presentation kanina po.
Nakarelate po kayo. Grabe po pala nung ginagawa namin ito ng summary. Grabe, sabi ko, grabe pala pinagdaanan ng simbahan. Parang yung Pope noon ay parang ang kanyang ay laging nakaano sa monarchy. Nakatali yung kanyang existence kasi pag medyo kinalaban nila yung hari, pag-iinitan yung simbahan.
Parang nga pong malakas yung politika nung panahon na yon. Pero yung at parang sa ano, nakita ko po yun when you are presenting, talagang napaka-importante yung values ng malasakit. Kasi kung mahina yung pananampalataya, talagang hihinto ka na lang kasi ano ka, i-eliminate ka eh. Until now, nangyayari pa po yun. Pero yun, sabi ko, importante talaga na nakaugat sa pananampalataya. Tapos yung mga values, especially we are Filipino, na itinuro sa atin yung malasakit ng ating mga lolo, lola.
Pero ang pinagtataka ko po ron, nung mabalik sa Pope yung yung mga bishop, halos kalahati lang bumalik, yung kalahati nag-resign. Ibig sabihin, hindi siguro ganong kalalim ang formation nila, ano po?
Hindi po. Ano affected din po ng politics kasi kung hindi po sila papaboran, i-eliminate din po sila eh. Parang nakisayaw na lang po sila sa ano, pero at the same time we're trying to sa wisdom po ng mga matatanda, itutuloy pa rin po yung yung hangarin na ipagpatuloy ang lakad ng simbahan, pero sila po yung kaya tayo naririto eh, yung kinukwento. Kaya po, hindi ko ba kinukwento nyo ngayon. Yung ganun din po, yung karanasan nila na nakiayon muna sila pero para lang po maprotektahan din po yung simbahan. The way I see po.
Opo, yun din po ang nakita ko na parang ang mahalaga sa kanila, mag-survive yung church despite yung persecution na na-encounter nila sa mga politiko, sa mga hari, sa monarchy. Kaya siguro pagpapasalamat din natin dahil sa ginawa nilang yon, yung simbahan hanggang ngayon ay malakas po.
Salamat po. Baka po yung iba ay may nais ding ibahagi.
And Sister Malo, alam ko very active ka rin sa church. Hello po, Sister Malo. Opo. Tama. Okay. Thank you, Sister Malo. Pero ma-share ko lang yung, kasi yung kalooban ko ba na antig yung ginawa ni Pope Pius, yung yung natalo na si Napoleon Bonaparte. Di ba yung kanyang nanay at yung mga kamag-anak niya, ayaw nang tanggapin ng ibang bansa, ibang monarchy, di ba? Pero tinanggap niya sa Roma na, sige dito kayo. maging refugees kayo rito. At si Napoleon na pinipilit siyang yung hindi naging maganda ang pakitungo sa kanya. Siya pa nakiusap doon sa mga kalaban ni Napoleon na medyo paganin nyo naman ang kanyang sentensya. So doon ko nakikita na talagang ang ating kaparehano, ang ating simbahan, hindi siya nagiging yung mapaghiganti ba? Kahit na naging kalaban o kaya naging hindi maganda ang pakikitungo sa simbahan. Talagang diyan mo makita na sinusunod ng simbahan ang turo ng ating Panginoong Jesucristo na kung ano yung tama, yung mahalin mo yung kapwa, yun ang pinaiiral. Kasi 'di ba yung last part ng report yung natalo na si Napoleon. Pa rin hindi siya kinondemn ng ating Papa. Sa halip nga ay pinaglaban pa na medyo maging maganang sentensya sa kanya. Yun lang po. Kayo po, Brother Romeo, baka may gusto po kayong i-share po.
Good evening po. Ang nakita ko lang na parang malalim na kaganapan dyan sa ating Santo Papa. Parang pagdating sa mga pangkaraniwang tao tulad natin, parang hindi ba natin maisip na parang ganun katindi yung kanyang ginawang sakripisyo, sarili niya. Then, kung isipin natin yung mga atake ng ibang mga anti-Catholics, parang binabaon talaga nila ang Santo Papa sa kumunoy na bilit nilang binabaliktad yung mga sitwasyon. Binibigyan nila ng mga ibang kwento na totoong mga nangyari. The fact na kung ating isipin yung mga sakripisyo niya, parang ang hirap eh. Unang-una, ang dami niya mga tinanggal sa kanyang sarili. Yung una, pag-aasawa, pamilya niya, hindi niya nakakasama. May mga dapat siyang mga gampanan sa buhay niya bilang siya ay isang miyembro ng pamilya niya. Pero ang dami niyang mga sakripisyo. Hindi nakikita ng ibang sekta yan. Kaya nga, parang iyan ang nakita kong katuparan talaga ng ng mga Team Dragon, di ba si Smalo? Team Dragon. Yung kailang mga ginagawa kung paano talaga sinasaktan talaga ang ating mga Santo Papa. Kasi sa totoo lang yung kung tingnan mo yung kanyang aura na kung paano magsalita, kung paano kumilos, wala kang makitang wala kang makitang sabihin nating kalaswan eh. Kumbaga, parang huling-huli yung kanyang imahe, yung kanyang kilos, pananatan niya. Pero sa iba, parang wala lang. Parang bibigyan pa ng mas mga kahulugan yun. Kaya yung kanyang ginawa tulad yung mga inquisition na ayan na sinasabi na Santo Papa pang nagpapatay sa mga Romano. Pero ang totoo ay, alam naman natin totoo dyan, nagtanggol siya sa kanyang simbahan, yung pagyurak ng mga taong simbahan, mga madre, pinapatay nila yung mga yan, nire-rape nila. Ngayon, ang kanilang kwento ay pag hindi ka sumapi sa Katoliko, sa Vatican, papatayin ka, yun ang kanilang mga atake dyan. So yun ang parang nakakalungkot lang ba na kaya ko lang na-share. Kasi galing ako sa GC ng kabila na yun ang topic namin kanina, mga history nila, tapos history natin, parang magkaiba. Pag naglatag ka ng tamang history, mali sa kanila yon. Ang gusto nila yung kanilang history ang ating pakinggan, which is wala namang tamang wala namang tamang basehan. So yun, parang nalulungkot lang ako dahil parang naaawa ko sa mga Santo Papa natin sa Vatican. Kaya ayun po, yun po ang aking share. Thank you.
Salamat din po. Siguro ay siguro maging ano lang tayo, maging open tayo sa criticism nila. Kasi siyempre, gaya ng report ko kanina, yung papacy, meron din talagang mga pope na nagkamali rin. Sabi nga ay, kumbaga sa ano ay, nakagawa rin ng hindi maayos. Pero yun naman ay kanila namang siguro pinagsisihan din nila at kanilang pinanagutan din. Siguro doon sila tumitingin sa ano. Pero kumbaga sa ano ay titingnan na lang natin ang turo ng simbahan. Kasi hindi naman pwede yung ginawa ng isang member ng simbahan ay ilalahat mo na, di ba? Dapat ay titingnan pa rin natin yung buong ano, buong picture ng ating simbahan. Bilang simbahan natin ay naging guide natin, nagiging muog natin. Diyan tayo kumukuha ng lakas. At diyan natin nakikita talaga ang ano ang galaw ng ating Panginoon sa Kristo dahil unang-una siya nagtatag niyan. Kaya nga inilagay niya para yan maging gabay natin, maging sandalan natin. Kaya kung meron mang member ng simbahan na hindi lang mga namumuno, kahit mga laikong tulad natin, ay siguro yun ang gawin na lang natin na kung sa laiko kaparehas natin na kasama natin nakagawa ng mali, siguro yun na lang tulungan natin maitama para hindi mawalay sa simbahan ng tuluyan. O kaya kung tayo naman ang nakagawa ng mali, o kaya ang ibig sabihin ay sikapin natin huwag makagawa ng mali kasi minsan lalo tayo mga nagsiserve sa simbahan, pag gumagawa ng mali, ang sinasabi ng iba, lalo mga kritiko, mga ibang relihiyon, ibang sekta, ang sinasabi ay ang simbahan ang gumagawa ng mali. Hindi sinasabi na si brother ganito ay gumagawa ng mali. Ang sinasabi, ayoko sa simbahan na yan kasi ganyan sila, ganoon. So parang yun ang, siguro yun ang sikapin natin na ipagdasal natin na sana hindi tayo magiging katitisuran ng iba sa pagtingin nila sa ating simbahan. Yun lang po ang ano ko.
Tama naman. Kumbaga ba ay tayo nasa fact and reality. The fact na tayo ay hindi dapat gumagawa ng mali dahil tayo na sa gawain ganito. That is the fact. Pero yung reality, we are human. Meron tayong mga kahinaan, kaya may mga lapses din tayo. Kaya lang, ang mga kalaban natin, doon nakaabang sa mga pagkakamali natin. Doon sila kumukuha ng tiyempo na kapag may nakita silang kunting mali, yun ang kagalang kailang atakein. Kaya, ayun, sabi mo nga kanina, pagkamali si Juan de la Cruz, buong simbahan na ang sasabihin lang na nagkamali. Ayun po, nakakalungkot lang.
Kanina nga pala sa report ko, siguro naalala ko lang na yung mga protestante pala, mabigat na kalaban talaga ng simbahan natin doon, lalo sa Britain, sa England. Grabe pala yung mga pag-aari ng simbahan. Kinuha nila yung mga lupain, 'di ba, yung kanina yung sinabi ko na report ko na kung yung mga lupain ng simbahan na karamihan naman doon ay donated pala, hindi binili ng simbahan kundi binigay ng mga siguro mayayaman na tao nung time na yon. Ang ginawa ng mga protestante, kasi meron silang parang meron silang militant arm, yung Puritans. Ang ginagawa nila, yung mga tao nila, sila nila pinatitira doon sa mga lupain na yon. Kaya parang lumaki sila. Pero at the expense ng simbahan, kinuha nila yung pag-aari ng simbahan na kung titingnan mo, mali, di ba? Kung ano ay, siguro hindi lang mahirap na lang bawiin ngayon kasi siyempre matagal ng panahon nangyari. Pero kung titingnan ng history, mali yun kasi hindi kanila yun kinuha lang nila sa pilitan na inagaw sa simbahan na pag-aari ng simbahan na hindi naman kumbaga sa ano yun ay i-donate na sa simbahan ng mga tao, ng mga Katoliko nung time na yun. Pero sa kanila napunta. Tingin ko sis, pagka binawi yun, malaking gulo
Kalipas.
Ang biro mo, 30 minutes yun, ha? Hindi nyo napapansin. Alright. Andito na tayo sa labas except si Brother Louie nandoon pa sa breakout 4. Alright, meron pong tanong so far tungkol doon sa presentation at saka kung ano pang area na kinakailangan nating ma-clarify.
O, doon po sa aming group, magtanong na kayo.
Yes po. Sir Resty,
Apo.
good evening po.
Good evening.
Po sa inyong
Apo.
lahat. For enlightenment lang po kasi doon po sa turin ni Saint Augustine at saka ni Saint Aquinas,
Okay.
di ba po yung about the free will and grace?
Okay.
Ano po yung enlighten lang po ako doon. Medyo kasi
Alright.
po di ba si Saint Augustine about ang theory niya about free will.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
sige, tuloy po muna bago natin kunin.
sige po. Tapos yung kay Saint Aquinas sa grace, ano pong issue ang meron sila doon sa free will and grace na yon? Thank you po.
You have to take a look at that from the perspective ng Pelagianism. Di ba meron tayong pinag-aralan dati na si Pelagius na sa kanila, sa theory ni Pelagius, hindi mo kailangan yung grasya. By itself, ang tao ay pwedeng i-pursue niya yung kanyang pagiging mabuti sa pamamagitan ng sa kanyang trabaho lang. Hindi kailangan ng grasya. So in a sense, ang nagiging perspective noong area ng Pelagianism at saka San Agustin is more yung dapat merong grasya. Now dito naman sa Santo Tomas, ang kanyang ina-emphasize doon is yung grasya talaga na yung even yung tinatawag, di ba meron tayong konsepto tungkol doon sa bago binyagan, binibigyan ng tao ng grasya to be able to accept the binyag. Yung tinatawag na, ano bang tawag sa grasya ngayon?
Sanctifying grace.
Sanctifying grace, yes. Yung sanctifying grace na yun, ibinibigay ng Diyos yun na para maging madali matanggap. So basically, ang faith mismo hindi nanggaling sa sa atin. Meaning, hindi tayo ang naging simula ng faith, kundi ang Diyos mismo, dahil sa pamamagitan ng sanctifying grace na ibinibigay bago tanggapin yung binyag, ay ibinigay ng Diyos. So therefore, yung grasya na yun ay ando doon na. Yun ang ni Santo Tomas Aquino. Si Juan kasi, ang nagiging problema ni San Agustin before ay yung yung katunggali niya yung Pelagius, lumalabas na ang sinasabing may irresistible na grasya ang Diyos na binibigay. Kaya nga nagiging ganyan eh. So hindi naman masyadong malayo yung idea ng dalawa except yung magnitude lang ng grasya ang pinag-uusapan. Hindi naman nagkakatunggaling sa sawi na may diferensya ng dalawa.
Thank you po.
Okay.
Meron po. Kasi
Yes.
may nagtatanong po sa grupo namin na about Copernicus and Galileo na
Okay.
kasi po ginugol na nga po namin kasi si Ptolemy ng Alexandria, siya po di ba yung nagsabi na the earth is the center of the universe.
Yes.
Yes, opo. Tapos si Copernicus tsaka si Galileo, sila po yung nagsabi na the sun kasi according to the creation,
Yeah.
the sun is the center. Ngayon, di ba si Galileo lang po ang nag-contest sa church nung na yon, jury.
Actually hindi naman nag-contest kasi ang mga obispo na nung panahon na yon, they were actually helping Galileo. Ang problema si Galileo medyo may yabang ng konti. Gusto niyang ilabas yung theory niya na hindi in a sense para bang hindi nare-review ng maigi. Remember, ang konsepto ng civilization ng panahon na yon ay nakasentro sa stability ng simbahan. Even yung tinatawag na civilization nagiging konkreto lamang nung panahon na yon, nung panahon na yon, ang order at saka yung kabutihan ng civilization is actually anchored on the stability of the church. Kaya nga yung na yon, nung si Galileo ay gusto niyang ilabas yung kanyang finding at the expense na hindi na kinakailangang kunin ang simbahan, yun nagkaroon ng tinatawag na parang konting yabang. May konting yabang si Galileo. Kaya yun, yung naging yung naging sa kanya. Pero remember, ang na yun is more on discipline. Hindi, remember ang mga pare kung minsan nagiging unang scientists eh. Remember yung natin, yung tinatawag natin the Big Bang, the Big Bang theory. Pare ang unang nagpalabas nun eh. So ang simbahan ay hindi talaga technically kalaban ng simbahan. It's more like kalaban ng science. It's more like, yung kuminsan tinitingnan kasi ng simbahan ang magiging epekto sa lahat. And that is precisely the reason kung bakit si Galileo ay kinakailang in a sense parang sanction, yung sanction na yun. The sanctioning there is not because kinakalaban ng simbahan yung nakikita ng simbahan science or something para magkinokontra ng science ng simbahan. Hindi yun eh. It's more like pag-usapan, tingnan. Kasi ang may suporta si Galileo sa hierarchy. May cardinal na sumusuporta sa kanya eh. Ang problema lang is dahil nga doon sa kanyang konting yabang, gusto niyang ipalabas agad yung kanyang finding. To the extent na kinakailangan i-disiplina basically. Okay?
Thank you po.
Yung
Thank you po,
alam ko po
Sir.
itong si Galileo at si Copernicus, Catholic canon yan si Copernicus.
Yes.
Katoliko yan, no? Kaya yung dati kasi ang paniwala ng iba ay ito ang mundo ay tinatawag geocentric, di ba? Pero during that time ay alam na ng mga Jesuit. Tandaan natin may mga Jesuit na scientists na alam na nila na heliocentric ang mundo. Alam na nila yan, hindi lang nila nire-reveal, no? Alam na nila yan. Even si Kepler, Catholic din yan. Alam nila yan. Kaya, opo, tama po ba, Sir Resty?
Yes, yes, oo. Kasi yun nga, sabi ko nga within the hierarchy itself, meron talagang mga scientists. And ang kwan nga lang doon is, ang tinitingnan lang kasi doon yung magiging epekto sa tawag dito, sa in a sense, peace. Remember, since at that particular point in time, ang simbahan at saka yung political situation ay halos isa lang eh. Technically. Kaya ganun lang yun. The simbahan is not actually against science. Remember that. Because there are so many priests and mga canon, in a sense, ay mga scientists talaga. Okay? Now,
Sir Resty, yung bintang sa atin na si Galileo daw ay sinunog ng Inquisition. Hindi po.
Hindi.
Natural death po ang kinamatay ni Galileo.
Oh, yeah,
hindi po siya na ng Inquisition. No? In-inquis siya, pero hindi siya na-torture at hindi siya sinunog sa stake. Natural death po yung kinamatay niya.
Yeah. Wala namang torture talaga ginagawa Inquisition. It is actually the civil government who will impose yung penalty. Pero ang Inquisition actually is only for inquiry. Inquiry lang yun eh. Alright? Yeah. Okay. Meron pa po.
Brother Resty,
Opo.
actually po si Aristotle po nag-claim na ang Earth ang center ng universe.
Actually, yes. Kasi
Kaya po nung naglabas si actually thesis lang yung kay Copernicus saka yung kay Galileo. Kasi kinokorek nga sila ng mga Jesuits na hindi pa naman proven yung Copernican theory. Kaya tama rin si Bellarmine na wag muna Galileo ilabas mo yung wag mo na agad sabihin yung mo kasi hindi pa proven yung theory na yon. Kasi natatakot sina Bellarmine, actually cardinal din siya eh. Sabi niya, kasi parang hand in hand yung science sa Catholic theology. Kaya sinasabi ni Bellarmine na pag nilabas mo agad yan, pag na-discredit yung theory ni Aristotle, baka ma-discredit masama rin yung Catholic theology. Kaya nag-iingat lang po yung simbahan na kung hanggang hindi pa proven, wag mo basta-basta ilalabas.
Yes. Ang base kasi ng simbahan, ng philosophy ng simbahan, Aristotle. And yun ang position at that time. Wala pa yung mga observation and then scientific experimentation. Wala pa yun. Nung si Galileo ay magkaroon ng teleskopyo, yun. Nagkakaroon na siya ng idea kung paano i-test yung mga propositions na yon. Meron na siyang theory, basically. Pero ang problema doon is is he going to bring it up right there and then to the extent na baka masira yung peace ng simbahan, peace ng civilization. Yun ang caution. Kaya nga simbahan is very cautious regarding that. Yung in a sense parang pag-admit ng simbahan na mali sila doon kay Galileo is because of that. Not because kinakailangan i-kuan yung peace at that time. Na kinakailangan i-supplant yung peace because of the findings of science. Hindi yun ang hinihingi ng doon ng dispensa. Ang hinihingi doon is the idea na kung yung proven na nga yung manong yun, ay dapat sana na pinalagdas yun. At palalabas naman yun kung talagang meron ng proof eh. Kaya nga later, pag makikita nyo sa science, maraming mga pare na scientists, they're actually doing that. Even yung the modern theorist na isang pare, siya yung nagpalabas ng Big Bang Theory. Pare yun. Okay pa? Meron pa pong tanong so far?
Brother Resty.
Apo, sige.
Na lang ako dito sa na-intriga ako dito kay Lasal.
Yeah.
Bakit prohibit niya ang teaching of Latin? Anong rason?
Hindi, kwan lang yun. Kasi remember, ang Latin is already the sacred language of the church. Kung ang gagamitin mo ay yung Latin in relation to the, kunyari, sciences. Although ngayon, ang ginagamit ng Latin sa sciences, yung mga terminology. baka hindi maintindihan ng kanyang magiging mga nag-aaral. Pero technically, pag tinignan mo yung mga sciences ngayon, they're actually using Latin and Greek sa terminologies. Mas stable ang Latin at saka yung Greek in terms of the meaning. Kasi hindi na masyadong gumagalaw yung mga words niya. Yung in a sense, sabi na hindi gagamitin ng Latin is for the, parang sa atin yan. Bakit hindi na masyadong ginagamit yung Latin mas? Kasi mas naiintindihan yung lingwahe, yung vernacular. So, ganun lang yun. Ang kanilang idea doon is to be able to encourage yung mga nag-aaral na mas maintindihan maigi yung sinasabi. Hindi kinakailangan mag-aaral nung declension ng Latin, conjugation ng Latin, and the like. So, kwan lang yun is for the ease of the students para mas madaling matuto doon sa mga situation. Pero, as we find it today, Latin and Greek is being used even by the sciences dahil nga doon sa stable description nito. Stable languages, stable vocabulary. At pag nakikita mo yung mga medical terms. Medical terms, mostly Latin and Greek yun eh. Even sa biology, pag tinignan nyo, lahat ng mga terminologies na ginagamit doon sa phylum, etc., all in Greek. Kaya ganun lang yun. It's more like, para mas maintindihan ng estudyante, gamitin yung vernacular. Not because Latin is not good. No, it's not that. Magkakaroon kasi ng, kinakailangan mo pang pag-aralan yung mga conjugation. Remember, ang Latin nung panahon ng yung Enlightenment, na yun, that becomes the sacred language of the church already. Kasi hindi na masyadong nag-open yung ibang mga lingwahe ay nagsimula na yung French, yung Italian, hindi na necessarily Latin ang ginagamit. Okay pa?
Kuya Resti,
Okay, thank you po.
Yes,
Kuya Resti, dagdag ko lang po.
Okay.
Actually, si Lasal kasi, nang itayo niya ang kanyang school, ang purpose niya ay, kumbaga sa time natin ngayon, vocational school or trade school. Kaya nga, in-encourage niya ng kanyang mga estudyante ay mag-manual labor. So sabi niya, kailangan ituro natin yung mga practical subject lang gaya ng mathematics, bookkeeping. Kaya yung Latin, tama po yung sabi ninyo na kumbaga pang higher education. So para yung kanyang purpose ay hindi na more on vocational, hindi niya in-encourage na ituro po yung Latin. Yun lang po ang pagkakaano ko doon.
Okay, very good, very good. Kaya nga, doon sa yun? Doon
Sir Rusty,
yeah.
di ba yung Latin na official lang yan during the 3rd century? Kasi during that time, na ang ginagamit natin ng mga early Christian ay Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, lalo na yung mga apostol, di ba?
Okay,
So,
ang Latin kasi is the lingwahe ng Roman Empire.
opo.
Okay, so nung matalo nila yung Griego, yung mga Greeks, ang nangyari is pinush yung dalawang lingwahe na yun eh. Hindi naman inalis, dahil remember, ang mga Romano, they're beholden to the Greeks. Even yung mga bata nila, mga anak nila, pinapaturo sa mga Greek philosophers. So meron talagang ang mga Romans tungkol sa Greek. Kaya nga ang existing language at that time doon sa Roman Empire is Latin and at the same time yung Greek. Pero as the empire goes, nagiging na yung vernacular nila, yung ginagamit nila sa kanilang empire, yung Latin talaga. So, remember, ang simbahan ay nagkaroon ng technically nung si Emperor Constantine ang naging emperador na is actually using Latin at that time. Kaya nga yung simbolo na nakita niya in Hoc Signo Vincis, actually that's Latin. So technically, yung Latin becomes the language of the church kasi nga yung pagkabuo nung tinatawag na liturgy at the time, puro Latin ang ginagamit na, hindi na masyado yung Greek. Except po doon sa Byzantine group. Pagdating doon sa Turkey, doon sa Istanbul, ang ginagamit doon is Greek. Hanggang ngayon, ang ginagamit ng Greek is Greek. So, pero dito sa West, sa Western Rite, ang ginagamit talaga is the Latin. So by the 1st century, Latin ang ginagamit ng empire. By the 3rd century, nung si Constantine ang maging emperador, Latin na talaga yon. Okay? So yun ang nagiging. Pero ando doon pa yung Greek influence. Remember, after Constantine, ando doon yung mga church fathers. At ando doon yung tawag dito, paghimay ng mga terminologies na gagamitin in support of the Trinitarian, Christological issues na lumalabas at that time. Okay pa? Meron pa pong tanong so far?
Walang nagtanong. Brother Resty,
Yes po.
tanong lang, tawag natin na hindi ito related sa ano natin. Kasi nabasa natin itong Vincent de Paul na nagtayo siya ng mga schools, no? May ano kasi nga, meron ba siyang branch na ano, magdepensa sa Catholic Church, sa belief in the Catholic Church? Kasi may isang grupo, magaling yung nila na pag-defense sa Catholic Church. Parang minsan may parang kumplito yung nila, may kasagutan sa mga tanong.
Marami ng mga apologists even sa mga congregations pero talagang kuha ng San Pablo de Vincent de Paul is more on the
Education.
social basically, kasi pinapakain, yung mga may sakit. Halos yun ang kanyang charism. Dito sa Pilipinas may makikita kayo dyan sa San Vicente de Paul. Yung mga hospital dyan sa may malapit sa Malacanang So ang charism talaga nila is more on that. Pero hindi nangangahulugan na walang apologetics na ginagawa ang mga yan kung kinakailangan. Kakakuha sila doon, even mga secular priests, ganun yun. So, kung meron kang makikita ng sagot-sagot, well, very good. Pwede mong gamitin yun for purposes ng apologetics. Okay?
Okay po, thank you po.
Okay. Meron pa po. Ay. Yeah, Miss Cynthia, meron kang kwan? Tanong?
Wala.
Yeah, Miss.
Bakit Sir Steve, bakit daw takot ka mga demons, lalo na pag ginagamit ng mga exorcist priest yung Latin language na pag-exorcist?
Ang mga demonyo alam na lingwahe, ano kayo?
Sabi ko nga po yun ngang mga babae, misis, takot nga yung demonyo dito sa Latin language.
Anyway, ang kuwan kasi ng yung mga orasyon, technically yung orasyon, naging kuwan na siya, naging in a sense para bang naging tatak na nung mga exorcism. Exorcism kasi kinakailangan ikuan mo yung very critical na petition. You are actually petitioning Christ to rid kung sino man yung possessed na yon of the demon. So kaya nga yung yung ginagamit na prayer is defined. Now remember, kung ikaw ay magiging extemporaneous, ikakast mo yung demons extemporaneously, how do you know that tama yun? Baka pwede ka pang sagutin ng ibang demonyo Whereas kung yung yung precise yung statement na ginagawa mo, like, okay, you are actually exhorting the demon to live. Kasi nga kuwan paano mo sasabihin yun doon sa demonyo? Pero kung meron kang precise statement tungkol dyan na pinakuha ng simbahan, pinapagamit ng simbahan, yun, magiging klarado yun. Hindi siya magkakaroon ng ibang definition kung hindi yung pinaka-precise meaning ng sinasabi. Whereas kung extemporaneously mo sasabihin sa kanya, okay, I cast you, baka meron kang sinabi doon na pwedeng busisiin ng demonyo, ipasukin ka pa So kaya kwan yun, any exorcism na allowed by the church, which is actually being used by any of the exorcists, ay mas kwan yun. Klarado kasi yun. Kahit hindi siya Latin, okay lang yun. So long as that is actually allowed or by the church. May kwan kasi yun, may mga meaning yun na precise. Hindi yan pwedeng maging subject to another interpretation. Which pwedeng i-exploit ng demonyo yun, basically, if you like. Okay pa?
Kuya Resty,
Yes.
Seriously, sandali lang po.
Kung
Sandali lang po,
time na yun-
Bro Pardo, sandali lang po. Seriously, di ba kahit pagka magkamali ka ng bigkas sa Latin, natawanan ka lang ng demonyo doon, di ba? Natawanan ka lang.
Kung marunong
Opo.
yung demonyo ng Latin, hindi tatawanan ka.
Oo.
Hindi ko alam na yun. Pero yan, ang pinaka-purpose doon yung precision. Okay pa? Ano yung Brother Jess?
nung time po na yon ay yung mga protestante ay merong militant group, yung Puritans.
Yeah.
Sa tingin niyo po kaya, Kuya Resty, sa panahon ngayon, may mga sekta kaya o na meron pa rin mga ganyan, mga militante na ginagamit nila?
Okay. Yung Puritanism, offshoot ng Anglicanism yun. Sila yung pumunta sa US. If you remember yung Mayflower na sasakyan or barko, dala-dala yung mga Puritans and they settled in the Plymouth. Kaya ngayon tinatawag na Thanksgiving Day sa US, nakabase yun doon sa success ng mga Puritans na nakapunta sa US dahil they're actually fleeing against persecution. So yung Puritanism na yun, militant basically, right? Kaya ngayon nung mapunta sila sa US, ando doon pa rin yung kanilang militanism, parang militant access, no? Remember, kinakalaban nila lahat ng may mga Katoliko doon sa US, inisimulan nilang gawin pa rin yun. Now, basically, yung Puritanism ay nandiyan pa rin hanggang at the moment, not necessarily yung militant stance, no? Pero yung kanilang teaching ay nandiyan pa sa Calvinism. Kasi Calvin sa Geneva, etc., yung Puritanism from England ay napunta doon sa mga areas kung saan yung Calvinists ay ando doon. Kaya nga yung mga yung 16 fundamentals na sinasabi ng mga Puritans at that time, ay yun din 16 fundamentals na sinusunod ng mga Protestante ngayon, including yung Calvinist. Okay? Lahat ng mga Protestante kasi believe in the 16 fundamentals. For all sa kanila, when they adhere to the 16 fundamentals, tama na yon. All the rest, pwede silang magkahiwa-hiwalay. Okay lang. Pero doon sa 16 fundamentals na yon, they have to agree. Every one of them will have to agree. Okay pa?
Salamat po, Brother Resty.
Brother Risty.
Yung pong Quakers, sila rin po ba yung Puritans?
Another group yung Quakers. It's more like friends.
Salamat po.
Okay. Brother John, okay pa? Ano yan?
Yung na-mention kasi kanina, Brother Risty, yung exorcism.
Yeah.
Oo. During the reform, during the decline, pinapractice ba ito? Kasi yung iba, instead, katulad ni Joan of Arc, sabi na sapian daw, bakit hindi in-exorcise, kundi diniretso doon sa Inquisition, kaya siya binitay.
Alright.
Yan.
Ang order yan, tayo di ba meron tayong ngayon ang remaining order is the bishop, the priest and the deacons, no? Yun ang order. Before the Vatican II, merong iba't ibang orders pa. Kasama diyan sa order na yun yung porter, yung tagabukas ng simbahan. Kasama diyan yung subdeacon, may subdeacon pa. And then merong exorcist. Isa sa mga orders yun. Now, ang order kasi ng exorcism ay nakakuha na ngayon doon sa mga pare na may faculty tungkol sa exorcism. So, that's the order na sinasabi. May order of the exorcist, no? Noong panahon na yun, hindi naman nawawala yung order na yun. Now, si Joan of Arc, halos political kasi nangyari doon. Nag-aaway doon, English at saka yung France. Sila yung nag-aaway doon. Kaya nga nung mahuli si Joan of Arc doon ng mga English, ay tinatry nila doon sa English tribunal nila basically. Kung ang kwan is sinasapian, Is that witchcraft or something? Is that part of the exorcist activity nung panahon na yun? Hindi natin masabi yun at this time. Pero basically, hindi nawawala yung order of the exorcist. Ano ba?
Okay.
Ano din yan sa simbahan. Even at the very start. Meron yan.
Thank you po.
Okay. Meron pa po. Right. Uy, alas 10 na pala. Okay. So magano na po tayo. Bukas may papadala akong mga invitation para doon sa misa. Gagawin natin yung misa sa September 8. Mag-open ang meet up para doon sa misa. And then kung gusto niyo pong magbigay ng stipend para sa may ilalagay kaming notice doon para maibigay natin kay Father Romel. Ano pa? So we would like to encourage you to attend the Mass, the anniversary Mass natin, September 8. Ano pa? Padala ko ng mga invitation, gagawin niya ni Monica mamaya-maya. And then, tingnan niyo po, including yung invitation para sa CBAP. Pero bibigyan natin po yung invitation na yun after the anniversary natin. Ano pa? Sandali lang.